there are lots of doctors out there who are going to prescribe what they think is in the best interest of their patients. Who cares what it costs? And then there are plan administrators who say, no, you can't do that, and some of the doctors sign on for that. But my favorite comment of all of these plan administrators was someone I spoke to fairly recently who said, my plan is entirely evidence-based. Then she paused, and she said, I just wish I had some evidence. So, really, with an absence of evidence, and that's what you're charged with collecting, how do you expect these guys to pay for it?
Right. I mean, so it's a difficult dilemma, and I think, trying to get an evidence for each scenario is a really challenging thing. For instance, let's go back to melanoma. It's something I'm very familiar with. We've had 3 drugs approved in the last 3 years. All of them are great. Maybe one's greater than the other. How do we know which one to pick first? We have no idea. Could we do that study? Who's going to pay for that study? Just start patients with the A, B, or C, see what happens, cross them over to B, C, and try to figure that out. Getting that evidence is going to be expensive, and I'm not sure if it's totally worth it. I would love it if the payers would accept our expert opinions on what's the right thing to do.
Trust me, right? My mother told me never trust anybody who says trust me. Now I've got a laundry list here, so if you'll forgive me, I'm going to read a few of these things.
Sure.
We've got checkpoint inhibitors. We've got blocking monoclonal antibodies and inhibitor molecules that target PD-1, PD-L1, CTLA-4. They've transformed cancer treatment. They offer new hope to patients. And here we go. We have ipilimumab, how did I do on that one?
Pretty good.
CTLA-4 inhibitor, it's approved in 2011, right?
Yeah.
To treat unresectable melanoma.
Yeah.
A PD-1 inhibitor. Pembrolizumab, he taught me to say that.
That's wonderful.
It was only recently approved for use if patients fail to respond to ipilimumab. Immunotherapy, however, is expensive. Some of these doses, let's just frame this. $10,000. $10,000. We're talking a used car.
Yeah.
Right? So why don't you discuss the pros and cons of these newer treatments?
Sure.
And I want you to address the potential, and I don't think it's unfair to talk about money.
Sure. So I think, again, let's keep it in the context of melanoma and the cost. So yes, these drugs are definitely expensive, and I think per month they're going to be as expensive and maybe even more than some of the other, like for instance, one other drug that got approved is a targeted drug, a pill, or a class of pills have been approved, but they're also about $10,000 a month too. So in terms of total cost, not too much difference. Now the difference is that you might take a PD-1 inhibitor for a full year, where the average duration of the pills, people are lasting 6 to 8 months, so maybe the total cost for the year will be potentially higher. However, I think if you look at hopefully the 5-year survival and need for further therapy, that hopefully the immunotherapies, in my opinion, will probably come out ahead. So I don't know. There probably is a higher upfront cost, but it'll be interesting to see as these drugs mature, and we're going to need those endpoints 5 years from now to determine.
Yeah, I think from the payer perspective, I think where we would like to see this go is to the point made earlier about, we really need evidence. We really need data. And so where it's ambiguous, as was just pointed out, we'd like to see the person in a clinical trial. Then we cover all the costs of usual care, and the specific cost of the drug product comes from the developing pharmaceutical company. And that is a way to get the evidence while not totally warping the system. And once the evidence is in, then a coverage policy will be developed.
Okay, now we have the old bugbear here, the quality adjusted life years, QALY. Do you guys use that phrase, QALY?
We do not.
I'm glad, because I was afraid of that. I'm glad you set us straight. But this is something the public really doesn't understand, I think, because the public comes to you and says, how much is a human life worth? This is my mom, it's me. I don't care. What is this quality adjusted life years for your immunotherapy? I mean, where does that enter into this?
Right now, it is a very heterogeneous system, and I can't tell you that some person in one insurance mechanism is going to be treated the same as someone in another insurance mechanism. And the reason is the discussion we had at the beginning of this, our meeting is, we have a system where in the medical industrial complex, everybody moves towards achieving a goal through their own business model. We're in a private payer free market system. Now, there's nobody here that would say that healthcare is a free market, but it's highly regulated, it has a lot of ins and outs. And yet, there's not one supervening standard.
Okay, but what does that do to you? You're out there on the front lines, right? He's just giving you the Ralph Cramden, hamana, hamana, you do it.
Right.
Right?
Well, I mean, I think fortunately it hasn't affected my day-to-day practice at this point. And if it does, then I have to figure out what I am going to do. So I haven't really thought about that question much. So.
Oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah,
Both of
sorry.
you. You know what it sounds like? It sounds like Animal Farm. All patients are equal, but some patients are more equal than others.
Well, that's the societal debate. And Animal Farm is a great reference because Richard and I are not going to make this decision. That's going to be a decision made by others. And one day we will have to come to a point and say, I don't know if we can afford this. We're not there yet.
Well, maybe